This guy grabbed me by the waist.
This call from my daughter.
Welcome to Crime Chronicles Unearthed. Let's uncover the tragic case of Debra Newell, a successful businesswoman manipulated by a dangerous con artist posing as a doctor. Debra had dreamed of finding love after years alone, but online she met not a prince, but a monster. John slowly warped her world through manipulation until her family's pleas were ignored. His violent crimes escalated, culminating in a battle for Tara's life. Debra Newell had built an accomplished life in California by 2014. Born in 1955, she grew up in a loving family and excelled in school. As an adult, Debra started her own interior design business named Ambrosia Designs. Through hard work and creativity, Ambrosia grew tremendously over 30 years. Debra's skills helped many clients transform spaces into homes. She took pride in offering high-quality work. Thanks to Ambrosia, Debra became financially secure. Besides her career, family was most important to Debra. She had 4 children, Jacqueline, Tara Newell, and 2 sons. Debra also doted on her several grandchildren who gave her joy. In 1984, a tragedy struck Debra's close-knit family. Her older sister Cindy was married with 2 kids of her own. But Cindy's husband, Billy, viciously murdered her in a brutal crime. The loss deeply wounded Debra. During Billy's trial, Cindy and Debra's own mother gave testimony supporting Billy. He received a very light sentence and was out of prison within a few years. The unresolved pain lingered with Debra for decades. She lived alone for long stretches and had frequent panic attacks. Debra could not bear even seeing firearms due to her trauma. Despite 4 marriages ending in divorce, Debra hoped to find a loyal partner once again. Her friends encouraged online dating as a way to meet someone. In 2014, at age 59, Debra decided to create a profile. There, she encountered 55-year-old John Meehan. His photos showed an attractive, well-built man. John's profile said he worked as a doctor and identified as a caring Christian. Intrigued, Debra agreed to a first date. The two met in October at a nice restaurant. John acted very interested in Debra, complimenting her looks and career. He told stories about being overseas with Doctors Without Borders helping others. Debra enjoyed John's charm and thought he seemed kind. Yet small things gave Debra pause. John only dressed in old, dirty medical scrubs instead of normal clothes. That night, he got physical too fast for her comfort despite Debra saying no repeatedly. The next day, John apologized. He claimed he drank too much and couldn't control himself. But he said Debra was special and he truly cared for her. Debra decided to give John another chance, liking the attention he gave. Within 5 weeks, John convinced Debra they should move in together. Even though her daughter Jacqueline lived with Debra and disapproved, Debra ignored her concerns. John did not offer to help pay either. Debra spent $80,000 putting down several months' advanced rent on a luxury waterfront house for them. But John's name was nowhere on the lease due to alleged tax issues. Still, Debra believed John's excuses, caught up in the romance. While John waited at home playing video games, Debra brought him as her date to fancy industry events. There, she proudly introduced John as her doctor partner to impressed friends and colleagues. By late 2015, John pressured Debra into hastily marrying in Las Vegas after less than a year dating. Her concerned children did not attend the quick wedding, disliking John's behavior and dirty clothes. Now, as Debra's husband, John isolated her from everyone. He monitored Debra with security cameras in their home and office, controlling who she saw. John also prevented Debra from working, trying to sever her independence. Debra's kids grew increasingly worried for their mother's safety. During a visit in late 2015, Tara Newell noticed John did not own a vehicle or nice clothes like he claimed. She secretly searched his things, discovering he was licensed only as a nurse, not the doctor as told. When Tara Newell informed Debra about John's lie, he exploded in rage. John screamed at Tara Newell for hours, accusing her of greedily wanting Debra's money. Shaken but unharmed, Tara Newell returned home. while John continued manipulating Debra's feelings. In early 2016, Debra learned more lies as her children investigated John's past. Court records showed he declared bankruptcy before committing fraud against previous wives for their wealth. Debra decided to finally divorce John due to his deception and controlling behavior. He started separating money, fearing for her safety. But John found $30,000 stashed away, insisting it belonged to him too. Knowing divorce meant losing control of Debra, John grew incredibly dangerous. He cut contact between Debra and her children, harassing Jacqueline with violent threats by phone. Terrified, Debra moved in with Jacqueline for protection temporarily on March 15, 2016. On June 11th, security footage showed John stealing Debra's expensive car from her job and abandoning it vandalized miles away. Though undamaged, it served as a clear warning from her vengeful ex-husband. About 2 months later, on August 20th, Debra Newell returned home very late from work. As she exited her vehicle in the parking garage, John suddenly appeared with a kitchen knife. Tara was startled as John grabbed her by one hand, brandishing a large butcher knife in the other. She struggled against the strong grip desperately, screaming at the top of her lungs for help. Seeing the knife so close, Tara panicked that John meant to kill or kidnap her. She thrashed about, trying to break free. That's when Tara remembered her protective boots, thick-soled and sturdy. Kicking with all her might, Tara was able to stomp down hard on John's feet through his worn shoes. The element of surprise aided her, causing John to momentarily lose balance. In that instant, Tara swung her leg out and managed to sweep the knife from his grasp. It clattered loudly on the wet pavement nearby. Now they wrestled fiercely on the ground for the weapon. Reaching with all her strength, Tara's hands found the handle first. Gripping it tight, she swung the blade at the towering man, pinning her beneath his weight. Tara stabbed repeatedly at any part of John she could reach, desperate to make him stop attacking and flee to safety. Her adrenaline took over instincts of survival. Even after John rolled off and collapsed, Tara stabbed one final time into his eye so he wouldn't get up again to continue the assault. Only then did she let out ragged breaths of relief. A kind neighbor quickly came to assist Tara, calming her down until the ambulance arrived to tend to both victims of the violent encounter. Tara was left traumatized by her brush with death at John's threatening hands. She suffered non-life-threatening injuries from her ordeal. Paramedics arrived and transported the critically injured John Miles to the hospital. John remained in critical condition after being stabbed by Tara defending herself from his knife attack. He was taken to the hospital immediately. Unfortunately, 4 days later, at age 57, John's injuries were too severe. Tests showed his brain was no longer functioning. His sister Karen had to make the painful choice to remove life support. After John passed away, his body was cremated with no funeral held. None of his family or friends attended due to his cruel acts against Debra and Tara. Debra wanted to turn her suffering into helping others going through similar domestic abuse situations. She knew many women live in fear, unable to leave dangerous relationships safely. Debra wanted to use her voice publicly to support victims and bring awareness. Her hope was they learn escape options exist and no one deserves to endure threats or violence from partners. Debra aimed to prevent further harm to families if possible through advocacy. Both Debra and Tara Newell battled deep trauma from John's violence and deception. With strong support from loved ones, they gradually healed physically and emotionally from their harrowing experiences over the next year. Debra reflected on how John had methodically lied about his background to lure her in and gain her money. She felt immense guilt. Her poor choices endangered her family. From then on, Debra swore to never meet partners online again after facing John's true criminal nature. While scars remained, Debra took comfort that John could no longer harm herself or others. She took self-defense courses too. With her children's patience and care, Debra learned to forgive herself and others while becoming wiser to manipulation tactics in relationships going forward. If you want more tragic true crime stories, hit subscribe for weekly videos exposing chilling mysteries. Join me next time on Crime Chronicles Unearthed by clicking the bell to uncover more dark, truthful stories.